Nakiri knives, Usuba knives. They're completely different. And this video is all about explaining those differences. This is a very traditional Japanese double-edged knife called a Nakiri knife. As a familiar tool found in Japanese home kitchens for centuries, you might also see them in Japanese folk tales. In the modern day though, the knife more widely used at home is the Santoku knife. So let's take a quick look at how the Nakiri differs from the Santoku to find out exactly why that is, and a much deeper look against the Usuba, a knife traditionally used by professional Japanese chefs. Maido, Brad here from Sakai Ichimonji Mitsuhide, and we've been making knives for over 70 years. First off, let's compare the two home use centered knives against another, as the Nakiri and Santoku do have some differences, and it's more than just looks. For Japanese homes at least, the Santoku is probably the most common knife out there, but the Santoku has exploded in popularity overseas too, and you may already have one in your home. Part of the back of the Santoku has a circular style curvature to it, starting generally in the front half of the blade near the kisaki or the tip. For the most part, the blade near the ugle or chin of the knife is actually quite flat, but like the back, it curves a little as you get closer to the tip as well. The tip itself is pointed, and the blade is a double-edged one. Let's compare this to the Nakiri in closer detail. Nakiri itself translates as vegetable cutter, and as per its namesake, vegetables is what it's designed to work with. To do this well, it uses a fairly rectangular shape. The blade itself has a very slight curve to it, but especially in comparison to other knives out there, it really is quite straight. It does have a steeper curve right near the blade's tip too, and like the Santoku, this is also a double-edged kitchen knife. So what's the advantage of this rectangular-like form? Well, take a look at this Santoku on a board here. When chopping, the entire blade doesn't make contact with the cutting board, so you need a slight rocking motion to cut food that's closer to the tip. The Nakiri, however, keeps almost full contact with the board, helping reduce accidental incomplete cuts. If you encounter this kind of uncut food piece problem when you're doing tasks like shredding cabbage or cutting green onion, then the Nakiri might be for you. What about peeling vegetables though? Let's use katsunomaki, a technique for peeling daikon radish, as an example. With a Santoku knife, because only the back half of the knife is flat in most cases, you can really only do a small amount of peeling at any one time, maybe a bit over half the blade's length. In contrast, the Nakiri has that mostly straight edge, so it can peel a much larger section of daikon in one go, as you can use almost the entire blade at the same time. And of course, this applies to peeling other vegetables as well, not just daikon. As an aside, you can use the spine to slide the ingredients off or around the cutting board easily, as much like the blade, the spine is also straight. Its wide blade makes it good for scooping ingredients too, which is useful for some specific dishes, think like hot pot for example. Let's compare the Nakiri to the more Japanese cuisine-focused knife, the Usuba knife. Another knife for vegetables, but significantly more traditional in nature. Usuba knives are mainly divided into two types: Edo Usuba, sometimes called Kanto type, and Kamagata Usuba like this one here, sometimes called Kansai type. The reason for this distinction comes down to regional traditions. The rectangular Edo Usuba is traditionally associated with the Kanto region in the eastern part of Japan, which includes Tokyo. Meanwhile, the Kamagata Usuba, with its characteristic sickle-shaped tip, is more commonly used in Western Japan's Kansai region, which includes cities such as Kyoto and here in Osaka. Between the Nakiri and two Usubas, by far and large, the Kamagata-style Usuba is our best seller. Then again, no, it is a type of knife we are particularly famous for. Nakiri knives aren't as commonly used professionally, and you will generally see them more around the home instead of the workplace. However, Usuba knives are an essential tool for cooking Japanese cuisine, so it's only natural that you'll see them in restaurants more often. Usuba knives are single-edged instead of double, with the cutting edge on the omote or front of the knife and a more or less completely flat ura or back of the knife. This difference is a lot more important than you might think. It all comes down to applying pressure and respecting ingredient integrity. A double-sided knife will apply pressure to both sides of the food where it cuts, whereas a single-sided knife will apply pressure only on one side, with next to none being applied to the other. It's kind of almost like the food is being peeled instead of being cut, and that keeps it in way better shape, locking nutritional value and mouthfeel in. If you're looking to cut vegetables incredibly thinly, or you want to keep flavor locked into your veggies, the Usuba might be the better choice for you. But the Usuba is a trickier knife to use. As it's a single-edged knife, the cutting edge is offset from the blade's center line. That makes the knife pull slightly to one side as you cut straight down, so you may find up that your cut-up vegetables end up slightly angled sometimes, such as when you cut them in half. Learning to make perfectly straight cuts takes a little practice. You'll need to guide the knife by applying a slight pressure with your thumb as you cut. Once you get used to it, however, the technique becomes quite natural. And this technique is important in Japanese cuisine as other knives use it too, such as deba knives for when you need to split a large fish head. A lot of this comparison between Usuba and Nakiri really comes down to what you want to do and ease of use. For straight cuts, a Nakiri will be a lot easier to work with. But if you're wanting something a little more technical or want to do really precise garnish cutting and peeling work such as katsunamaki on daikon, then the Usuba is going to be a more practical choice, even if it requires a bit of training first. One other key difference is in the straightness of the edge of these two knives. As we covered earlier, the Nakiri is fairly straight, but the Usuba is even straighter again, and overwhelmingly so. When chopping with an Usuba, you can use a more push-cut style motion and cut in this manner. You can see Matsumoto-san from our Japanese team doing here. A Nakiri knife allows you to make more of a chopping or even a rolling motion instead thanks to its rounded tip, and some people find this an easier technique to work with. The Usuba is much more specific in its scope, which is typical for traditional Japanese culinary knives. That said, the things it's designed to do, delicate cuts and precise work, it's really best in class at doing. So if you need a knife that does those tasks, you really can't find any better. Both knives are specialized for vegetables, but they can cut outside of their specialty too. While it is more difficult to do, people can and do use them for sashimi and meat. So feel free to experiment with that purpose if you want to get more value out of your knife. Matsumoto-san experimented by making curry and stew using a Kamagata Usuba, and he tells me that its tip is very useful. He also mentioned that the Usuba can even be used to remove sinew from poultry, so despite being vegetable knives, these are more multi-purpose than you may think. However, there is an exception when it comes to fish. You're more likely to encounter bones, especially when it comes to whole seafoods, and bones can easily chip knives like this if you aren't careful. You're better off with a knife that is more designed for filleting or slicing in those cases. A Nakiri knife is a really easy to use and approachable knife, plus is a shape that very distinctly identifies itself as being a Japanese style knife, making it an interesting and fun choice to expand a Western knife collection with, or even just to start out with. And as many people still don't own these, it's a fairly safe gift idea too. There's many variations of Nakiri out there, and while we do specialize more in Usuba knives, our Nakiri knives pack a punch too. For example, we have the Jin Nakiri using SLD semi-stainless steel, and many other Nakiri around this price point that come in rotationally. We even occasionally have high-end ones like custom order hand-forged ones using blue steel super from Sakai with a really thin, and a beautiful shinogi line. I'm sold out of those at the moment, of course, but they are complemented with things like a special Suzuki handle and with urushi lacquering of the highest grade. These kinds of knives are made to order only, and they go above and beyond, but can be well worth the wait, or by making an order through us. On that note, let's pose an unexpected scenario. Can you turn a Nakiri knife into an Usuba one? Or rather, can you make a double-sided knife a single-sided one? The answer is definitively no, you cannot. All you're going to do is make a double-sided knife that leans towards one side without the usual supportive structure a single-sided knife has. Remember, it's a lot more than just an edge difference. The flat bevel and spine are all completely different. The core itself also causes a problem, as Nakiri knives are generally a hard steel core sandwiched between softer iron, in our case nantetsu or forging iron. If you push the knife too far one way, all that'll do is expose those softer forging irons, and those don't cut well. If you do want to learn more about how to sharpen either a Nakiri or an Usuba, we have an introductory sharpening video which we advise you go watch next. Or visit our Japanese channel to see a video all about sharpening Usuba knives specifically, as well as many other in-depth videos about kitchen knife culture. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, hit us up in the comments section. We're always watching. Kini.